Imagine, for a moment, that the key to living a fulfilled and resilient life isn't found in material success, external validation, or the opinions of others. It's already within you, waiting to be recognized, nurtured, and empowered. Through the lens of Stoic philosophy, today, we're going to explore how you might be undervaluing yourself in ways you've never considered before. In this video, we'll dive into 15 profound signs that you may be unknowingly undermining your true worth. But this isn't just about identifying problems, it's about transforming your mindset. As we walk through each sign, you'll not only gain awareness, but also the Stoic tools to realign your actions with your inherent value. This process isn't about inflating your ego, it's about understanding yourself honestly, with wisdom and clarity. Stay with us till the end, because by the conclusion of this video, you'll have practical, actionable steps grounded in Stoicism that will help you value yourself in a way that fosters inner peace, resilience, and lasting fulfillment. Don't skip this journey. It's a pivotal step in becoming the person you were meant to be. 1. Struggling to accept compliments. When was the last time someone complimented you, and instead of saying a simple "thank you," you brushed it off? Perhaps you deflected with something like, "Oh, it was nothing," or "anyone could have done it." If this resonates with you, you might be undervaluing yourself. Stoicism teaches us to live in harmony with the truth of who we are, and that includes acknowledging our strengths. But why is it so hard to accept compliments? Often it's because we view ourselves through a distorted lens, one clouded by insecurities and false modesty. Stoicism encourages us to practice self-awareness and objectivity, which means recognizing both our strengths and weaknesses with equal clarity. Dismissing compliments might seem like humility, but is it really? Or are we masking our discomfort with acknowledging the virtues we've cultivated? The Stoic virtue of temperance is about balance, and here it calls for a balanced view of ourselves. When someone compliments you, they are often recognizing the fruits of your hard work, your discipline, or your courage. Dismissing that praise diminishes not just the achievement, but the virtues behind it. Have you ever considered that, by rejecting compliments, you're rejecting the reflection of your own efforts and virtues? What if, instead of minimizing your success, you took a moment to reflect on what it took to get there? Perhaps it was wisdom in your decision-making, courage in stepping out of your comfort zone, or temperance in exercising discipline to complete the task. Here's a Stoic exercise you can try. The next time someone offers you praise, resist the urge to deflect. Instead, simply say, "Thank you." Acknowledge the truth in their words, even if it feels uncomfortable. This isn't about feeding your ego. It's about honoring the virtues that helped you succeed. When you learn to accept compliments with grace, you begin to see yourself through a more accurate lens. You stop undervaluing the qualities that make you, you. Ask yourself, why do I find it difficult to accept the positive reflections others give me? Could it be that I've been conditioned to downplay my strengths? Think about the last time you accomplished something significant, no matter how small it seemed. What virtues did you practice to get there? Was it courage to apply for a job? Wisdom in solving a problem? Temperance in managing your time? Acknowledging these virtues is not arrogance, it's a Stoic practice of recognizing the truth. So, why do we undervalue ourselves in this way? Perhaps it's because we've internalized the idea that recognizing our achievements makes us arrogant, but Stoicism tells us otherwise. Humility, according to Stoicism, is not about denying our strengths. It's about acknowledging them truthfully and using them for the greater good. It's about living in accordance with nature, which includes recognizing the value of our efforts and virtues. The next time you receive a compliment, consider it a mirror being held up to your virtues. What do you see? a person who has worked hard, overcome challenges, and practiced virtues along the way. Stoicism encourages us to be honest with ourselves, not to inflate our achievements, but to see them clearly for what they are. Now, let's explore the next sign that you might be undervaluing yourself. Remember, each of these signs is an opportunity to reflect and grow, helping you align more closely with your true worth. 2. Settling for less. How often do you find yourself staying in situations that don't serve you, whether it's a job that drains you, a relationship that doesn't uplift you, or personal goals you're hesitant to pursue? If you're settling for less than you deserve, it might be a clear sign that you're undervaluing yourself. Stoicism teaches us to align our actions with our virtues and values, yet many of us settle for less due to fear, comfort, or self-doubt. Why do we do this? Is it because we believe that we're not worthy of better circumstances? Or are we so afraid of failure or the unknown that we'd rather remain in situations that limit us? One of the key tenets of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control. We may not always be able to control our external circumstances, but we always have the power to control our response to them. The Stoics remind us that our true worth is not determined by the situation we find ourselves in, but by how we act within that situation. This raises a crucial question. If you are choosing to stay in a situation that limits your growth, are you truly responding in alignment with your highest values? Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, reminds us in his Meditations that our worth is not determined by external factors like job titles, relationships, or financial status. Instead, our worth is rooted in our ability to live in accordance with nature, to act with virtue, and to remain true to ourselves, no matter the circumstances. So, when you find yourself settling for less, take a moment to reflect. Am I staying true to my values? Is this situation aligned with my deeper sense of self-worth? It's easy to fall into the trap of settling for less. Perhaps you've convinced yourself that this job, relationship, or circumstance is good enough. But Stoicism asks us to question this mentality. Good enough for whom? For you, or for the version of yourself that has grown accustomed to settling? The Stoics teach us that we are deserving of lives that align with our values, and when we accept less, we are choosing to deny ourselves the opportunity to grow into our fullest potential. Have you ever paused to ask yourself, what would happen if I believed I deserved more? Not from a place of entitlement, but from a place of self-respect and alignment with Stoic principles. If we live according to wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we naturally gravitate toward situations that reflect our true worth. Settling often comes from fear. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of failing if we strive for more. But here's where Stoicism offers us a path forward. The Stoics teach us that fear is rooted in our attachment to outcomes we cannot control. Instead of being paralyzed by fear, we are encouraged to focus on what we can control: our perceptions, judgments, and actions. When you let go of the fear of failure or rejection and focus on living virtuously, you create space for better opportunities to enter your life. Ask yourself, am I truly living in alignment with my highest values, or am I settling for less because it feels safer? Stoicism reminds us that safety, when rooted in fear or complacency, is not genuine security. It's stagnation. True security comes from knowing that you are living according to your values and virtues, no matter what happens externally. Consider this. What if Marcus Aurelius had settled for less, believing that he couldn't handle the challenges of being an emperor during times of war and plague? What if Epictetus, once a slave, had settled for a life of servitude without recognizing his inherent worth and potential for philosophical greatness? These Stoic giants remind us that no matter our circumstances, we have the power to choose how we respond. By settling for less, we ignore this power. If you're currently in a situation where you're settling, take a moment to reflect. Are you allowing external circumstances to define your self-worth? Or are you ready to embrace the Stoic understanding that your worth is determined by how you live and what you stand for, regardless of the situation? Stoicism empowers us to see that we have the strength to make changes, even when they feel difficult or uncertain. You are capable of pursuing what aligns with your values. You are deserving of more. The only question that remains is, will you choose to act? Now that we've explored the dangers of settling for less, let's move on to the next sign. We'll continue uncovering how undervaluing yourself can hold you back from living a fulfilled life rooted in Stoic virtue. 3. Neglecting self-care. When was the last time you truly took time for yourself? Self-care, whether physical, mental, or emotional, is often the first thing we sacrifice when life gets busy. But what if neglecting self-care is actually a sign that you're undervaluing yourself? Stoicism teaches us the importance of balance and self-discipline. Part of living a virtuous life is maintaining your well-being so you can show up as your best self for others and for your responsibilities. Yet, many of us ignore this need for self-care, believing it's selfish or unnecessary. But here's the Stoic truth: caring for yourself is not indulgence, it's responsibility. If you fail to care for your own well-being, how can you care for others? How can you fulfill your potential if you are physically or emotionally drained? The Stoics understood that a clear mind, a strong body, and an open heart are essential for practicing virtue. When you ignore these aspects of yourself, you are not honoring your full potential. But why do we neglect self-care? Is it because we're too busy, or is there a deeper issue at play? Often, when we neglect ourselves, it's because we subconsciously believe we're not worth the time or effort. Stoicism reminds us that each individual has inherent worth, and neglecting yourself is a failure to recognize that worth. Take a moment to reflect. Am I consistently putting others before myself at the expense of my well-being? If so, what message are you sending to yourself? That your needs are less important. Stoicism teaches that while helping others is virtuous, sacrificing yourself in the process is not. The balance lies in caring for yourself so that you can continue to serve others without depleting your own reserves. One of the core Stoic teachings is the dichotomy of control. Your well-being, your thoughts, actions, and health are within your control. The well-being of others, though important, is not directly under your control. Therefore, focusing on maintaining your own mental, physical, and emotional health is not just wise, it's essential for living a Stoic life. Have you ever considered that self-care is an act of justice toward yourself? In Stoicism, justice is about giving each person their due, including yourself. If you consistently deny yourself rest, nourishment, and joy, you are not practicing justice. Let's take a moment to pause here and reflect on the importance of this video. If you've recognized even one of these signs in yourself, you owe it to yourself to watch this video through to the end. Each of the following signs will provide you with deeper insight into how to realign with your inherent worth, using Stoicism as your guide. Don't miss out on these life-changing realizations. Stay with us. You deserve this knowledge. Now that we've explored how neglecting self-care can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move on to the next crucial sign. 4. Fear of making decisions. How often do you find yourself hesitating before making a decision? Do you agonize over what might go wrong or whether you'll regret your choice? If so, it's possible that you're undervaluing yourself by doubting your ability to make sound decisions. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control outcomes, we can control the process of decision-making. In fact, one of the central teachings of Stoicism is that decisions should be based on reason, not fear. But why do so many of us allow fear to paralyze us? Are we afraid of making a mistake? Or is it that we don't trust ourselves to handle the consequences of our choices? Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations that it's not the event itself that disturbs us, but our judgments about it. In the same way, it's not the decision itself that causes fear, but our perception of what might happen afterward. If you find yourself stuck in a cycle of indecision, ask yourself, am I focusing on what I can control, my actions and intentions, or am I obsessing over what I cannot control, the outcomes? Fear-based indecision often arises from undervaluing your own ability to navigate life's uncertainties. But here's the Stoic truth. No decision, whether it results in success or failure, defines your worth. What matters is that you made the decision with wisdom and courage, aligned with your values. As Epictetus teaches, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The same goes for decision-making. Think of the times in your life when you made a decision that didn't turn out as planned. Did the world fall apart? Or did you learn something valuable? Stoicism encourages us to see failures not as reflections of our worth, but as opportunities for growth and learning. Every decision, whether successful or not, teaches us something about ourselves and the world. Have you ever paused to ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen if I made the wrong choice? Stoicism teaches us a practice called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, which involves imagining the worst-case scenario in order to diminish its power over us. By confronting your fears head-on, you reduce their hold on you and empower yourself to act. Here's a Stoic exercise. The next time you face a decision, reflect on your values and consider what choice aligns with them. Focus on what you can control, your reasons for making the decision, and let go of the fear of external outcomes. Accept that whatever happens, you have the strength to handle it. Ultimately, indecision is a form of self-doubt, a lack of trust in your own judgment and resilience. But the Stoic path teaches us that you are equipped with everything you need to navigate life's challenges. Trust in your courage, trust in your wisdom, and trust that whatever the outcome, you will grow from the experience. Now that we've explored how fear of decision-making is a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move to the next sign, which is equally as crucial. 5. Avoiding your dreams. Have you ever found yourself pushing aside your biggest dreams or goals, telling yourself that now isn't the right time? Or perhaps you've convinced yourself that you're not capable of achieving them. If so, you might be undervaluing your potential in a profound way. Stoicism encourages us to live in accordance with our nature and pursue excellence. But why do so many of us avoid pursuing our dreams? Is it because we fear failure, or is it because we don't believe we're worthy of success? This avoidance stems from a lack of belief in our own abilities, a form of undervaluing ourselves. Consider this. Your dreams are an expression of your unique potential. By avoiding them, you are not only denying yourself the chance to grow, but also denying the world the contribution only you can make. Stoicism teaches us that our potential is a reflection of our capacity for virtue and wisdom. When you avoid your dreams, you are not living up to your full potential. But why do we do this? Often, it's because we fear that we will fail, and that failure will somehow reflect poorly on us. But Stoicism tells us that failure is not something to fear. It is a natural part of the human experience. As Epictetus wisely put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, it's not the failure itself, but how you respond to it that defines your character. Imagine what your life could be like if you approached your dreams with the Stoic principle of amor fati, the love of fate. This principle teaches us to embrace whatever life throws our way, whether success or failure, with acceptance and even enthusiasm. What would it feel like to pursue your dreams, not with the pressure of guaranteed success, but with the mindset that no matter what happens, you will grow and learn from the experience? Have you ever asked yourself, what do I stand to lose if I don't pursue my dreams? Stoicism teaches us to reflect on the brevity of life. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. If you avoid your dreams, you are denying yourself the chance to live fully, to explore your potential, and to leave a meaningful impact on the world. Avoiding your dreams is not just an act of fear. It's a form of self-neglect. It's a way of telling yourself that your aspirations don't matter, that you are not worthy of the effort and time it takes to pursue them. But Stoicism tells us otherwise. You are deserving of the life you envision, not because it's easy, but because striving toward your dreams is a reflection of living in accordance with your values. Here's a question to reflect on. Am I avoiding my dreams because I'm afraid of failing, or because I don't believe I'm worthy of success? Stoicism challenges you to face that fear head-on. Take small, intentional steps toward your dreams, trusting that every effort is a step toward your highest self. And now, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever avoided pursuing a dream out of fear or self-doubt? How did you overcome it, or how do you plan to move forward? Your experience may inspire someone else who's feeling the same way. As we move forward, let's explore another powerful sign that you might be undervaluing yourself, one that often goes unnoticed in our daily lives. 6. Ruminating on past mistakes. Do you often find yourself replaying past mistakes in your mind, constantly criticizing yourself for things you've done or didn't do? If so, you may be trapped in a cycle of rumination that's rooted in undervaluing yourself. Stoicism teaches us that while reflecting on past actions can lead to growth, endlessly ruminating on them only serves to drain our energy and cloud our judgment. Why do we hold on to our past mistakes so tightly? Is it because we believe that we're somehow defined by them, that our value has diminished because of the errors we've made? In the Stoic tradition, mistakes are seen as opportunities for learning, not as reflections of our worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that our mistakes, rather than being obstacles, are the very things that lead us to greater wisdom and growth. But if this is true, why do so many of us continue to beat ourselves up over the past? Perhaps it's because we believe that by punishing ourselves, we can somehow make up for the error. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Self-blame is a waste of energy. Instead of ruminating on what's already done and beyond our control, Stoicism invites us to focus on what we can control, our present actions and future intentions. Ask yourself, am I gaining anything by constantly revisiting my past mistakes, or am I simply reinforcing a negative self-image? Epictetus reminds us that it is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance. The mistake itself doesn't define us. Our interpretation of it does. When we ruminate, we are choosing to hold on to a negative interpretation rather than using the mistake as a stepping stone to grow. Ruminating on the past can also be a sign that we are setting impossibly high standards for ourselves. Are you expecting perfection from yourself while accepting that everyone else is human? Stoicism tells us that progress, not perfection, is the goal. The Stoic path is one of continuous learning and development, and setbacks are part of that journey. Each mistake is an opportunity to reflect, adjust, and move forward. Consider this. What if you viewed your past mistakes through the lens of compassion and growth rather than guilt and self-criticism? In Stoicism, self-compassion doesn't mean making excuses for our failures. Instead, it means acknowledging our imperfections and learning from them with the same wisdom and patience that we would offer a close friend. So how do we stop ruminating on the past and start valuing ourselves again? Begin by practicing self-awareness, another core Stoic principle. When you catch yourself slipping into negative thoughts about the past, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this, and how can I apply this lesson to my life today? This shift in focus allows you to break free from the cycle of rumination and move forward with a greater sense of purpose. Finally, remember that the past is no longer within your control. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and reactions in the present moment. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can control how you choose to respond to it now. By letting go of the past, you free yourself to create a future that is aligned with your values and virtues. Now that we've explored how ruminating on past mistakes can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move to the next sign, which addresses how your environment may be affecting your self-worth. 7. Staying in negative environments. Are you currently in a job that drains your energy, a relationship that doesn't support your growth, or a social circle that pulls you down instead of lifting you up? If so, you may be undervaluing yourself by remaining in negative environments. Stoicism teaches us that our surroundings, while important, do not define us. However, it also reminds us that we have the responsibility to choose our associations wisely. Why do we stay in negative environments? Is it because we believe that we don't deserve better? Or perhaps we've convinced ourselves that change is impossible or too difficult to pursue. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius writes, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This means that the environment we surround ourselves with can influence our inner life more than we might realize. If you spend time in an environment filled with negativity, your thoughts, and eventually your actions, will begin to reflect that negativity. But why do we tolerate these environments? Often, it's because we underestimate our power to make changes. We tell ourselves that this toxic job, relationship, or social group is just how things are, and we have no choice but to accept it. But Stoicism teaches us that we always have a choice. Even if we cannot change the external environment immediately, we have control over our internal responses and the steps we take to improve our situation. Ask yourself, why am I choosing to stay in an environment that doesn't align with my values or promote my well-being? Stoicism reminds us that we are responsible for the company we keep and the surroundings we choose. If your environment is not helping you grow, it's time to take action. Whether it's setting boundaries, seeking new opportunities, or distancing yourself from toxic influences, you have the power to make a change. Staying in a negative environment is often a sign that you don't believe you deserve better. But Stoicism teaches us that every individual has inherent worth, and that includes you. You deserve to be in environments that help you grow, that align with your values, and that support your well-being. It's not selfish to seek out these environments. It's an act of self-respect. Think about the last time you felt truly valued in your environment. What was different about that situation? Was it the people, the atmosphere, or the activities you were engaged in? Stoicism encourages us to seek out environments that allow us to live according to our virtues, places where we can practice wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. If your current environment doesn't allow you to do this, it's time to reflect on whether it's truly serving you. Epictetus reminds us that we are not disturbed by what happens, but by our thoughts about what happens. In the same way, we are not necessarily disturbed by the environment itself, but by our choice to remain in it. When you recognize that you have the power to change your surroundings, whether by shifting your perception or by taking concrete action, you take back control of your life. Here's a Stoic exercise. Reflect on your current environment and ask yourself if it's helping you live according to your highest values. If it's not, take one small step today toward improving it. Whether it's having an honest conversation, setting boundaries, or exploring new opportunities, every action counts. Now that we've examined the impact of staying in negative environments, let's move on to the next sign of undervaluing yourself, one that involves constantly seeking approval from others. 8. Seeking external validation. How often do you find yourself chasing the approval of others? Whether it's at work, in social settings, or even with family, are you constantly seeking validation from the people around you? If so, this might be a sign that you are undervaluing yourself by placing your sense of worth in the hands of others. Stoicism teaches us that true contentment comes from within, not from the fleeting approval of others. But why do we crave external validation so much? Is it because we've been conditioned to believe that our value is tied to our achievements or the opinions of others? Or perhaps it's because we doubt our own worth and we seek reassurance from external sources to feel secure. The Stoics remind us that external validation is not only unreliable, but also outside of our control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the importance of focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and choices, rather than being swayed by external factors like praise or criticism. He famously said, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it within yourselves." When we depend on others' opinions to define our value, we hand over control of our well-being to forces beyond us, leaving us vulnerable to disappointment and insecurity. But why is it so hard to break free from the need for approval? The answer lies in how deeply ingrained this desire is. From a young age, we are often taught that success is measured by how well we meet the expectations of others, whether it's through academic performance, social behavior, or career achievements. This conditioning creates a feedback loop where we associate praise with worth and criticism with failure. Over time, we lose sight of the fact that our true worth is intrinsic and independent of external opinions. Ask yourself, am I acting in alignment with my values, or am I merely trying to please others? Stoicism teaches us that living a virtuous life, one guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, is the only path to true fulfillment. When we focus on external validation, we stray from this path, allowing the judgments of others to dictate our actions rather than staying true to our principles. But what happens when we don't receive the validation we crave? More often than not, we begin to doubt ourselves. We question our abilities, second-guess our decisions, and may even feel unworthy of success. Stoicism offers an antidote to this self-doubt by reminding us that our worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the integrity of our actions. If you are living in accordance with your values, then you are already worthy, whether others recognize it or not. Imagine a life where your self-worth is no longer dependent on external validation. How freeing would it be to pursue your goals, make decisions, and engage with others from a place of confidence in who you are rather than seeking approval? Stoicism encourages us to cultivate. Here's a question to reflect on. Am I making choices based on what others expect of me, or am I living in alignment with my own values? If you find that external validation is driving your decisions, it's time to reconnect with your inner compass. The Stoic practice of self-reflection. To practice this, try the following Stoic exercise. The next time you find yourself seeking validation, Whether it's through social media, at work, or in conversation, pause and ask yourself, why am I seeking this approval? Does it reflect my true values, or am I simply trying to please others? Ultimately, Stoicism teaches us that external validation is fleeting and unreliable. Your worth, however, is constant and unchanging. The more you learn to value yourself from within, the less you will need the approval of others to feel complete. Now that we've explored how seeking external validation can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move on to the next important indicator: constantly putting others first at the expense of your own needs. 9. Constantly putting others first. Do you often find yourself prioritizing the needs of others over your own, even to the point of neglecting your well-being? While helping others can be a noble pursuit, constantly putting others first without considering your own needs is a clear sign that you might be undervaluing yourself. Stoicism, while emphasizing virtue and the importance of contributing to society, also teaches us the necessity of maintaining balance. We must care for others, but not at the expense of our own well-being. In fact, the Stoics believed that by caring for ourselves first, we are better equipped to serve others effectively. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely observed, "You must live for others if you wish to live for yourself." But why do we so often neglect our own needs? Is it because we believe that self-care is selfish? Or is it because we've been conditioned to think that our value comes solely from what we can do for others? Many of us fall into the trap of believing that by constantly sacrificing our own well-being, we are being virtuous or heroic. However, Stoicism teaches us that this form of self-sacrifice, when taken to an extreme, is not virtue. It's a form of self-neglect. Ask yourself, am I constantly saying yes to others at the expense of my own well-being? Stoicism reminds us that balance is key. The Stoic virtue of temperance. The Stoics believed that self-care is not selfish, it's essential for living a life of virtue. When we are rested, mentally strong, and emotionally balanced, we are better equipped to act with wisdom, courage, and justice. So why do we continue to put others first at the expense of ourselves? Often, it's because we fear being seen as selfish, or we feel that our worth is tied to how much we can give to others. But Stoicism teaches us to let go of this need for external validation, as we discussed earlier, and to recognize that true virtue lies in living a balanced life. Consider this. When you constantly put others first, what message are you sending to yourself? That your needs are less important? That you are not worthy of care? Stoicism teaches us that every individual has inherent worth, and that includes you. If you wouldn't expect someone else to sacrifice their well-being for your sake, why would you expect it of yourself? Here's a Stoic exercise. The next time someone asks you for something, whether it's your time, energy, or attention, pause and reflect on whether you have the resources to give. If you are already running on empty, practice saying no with kindness and firmness. Remember, saying no to others when necessary is a way of saying yes to yourself and to your well-being. By practicing self-care and setting healthy boundaries, you are not only valuing yourself, but also ensuring that you can show up fully for others when it truly matters. Stoicism teaches us that we must first take care of our own mind, body, and spirit before we can effectively serve those around us. Now that we've addressed how constantly putting others first can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move on to the next sign: downplaying your achievements. 10. Downplaying your achievements. Have you ever achieved something significant only to brush it off by saying, "It wasn't that big of a deal," or "anyone could have done it"? If this sounds familiar, you may be undervaluing yourself by consistently downplaying your achievements. Stoicism teaches us to live in alignment with the truth, And part of that truth is recognizing and valuing the virtues we embody in our successes. Why do we downplay our accomplishments? Is it out of fear of appearing arrogant? Or do we genuinely believe our efforts aren't worthy of recognition? Many of us have been conditioned to equate humility with self-deprecation. But Stoicism, while encouraging humility, also teaches that recognizing your achievements is essential for an honest self-assessment. Marcus Aurelius himself emphasized in Meditations that we must always live in accordance with nature, which includes seeing ourselves clearly, not inflated with ego, but not diminished by self-doubt either. So, why do we fall into the habit of minimizing our successes? Sometimes it's because we believe that attributing our achievements to luck or diminishing them in some way protects us from future criticism or failure. But Stoicism teaches that we should approach life with courage and face the truth of our own abilities. By downplaying your achievements, you are refusing to acknowledge the wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance you've practiced to succeed. Ask yourself, when was the last time I truly acknowledged my accomplishments without minimizing them? Stoicism teaches us that recognizing our achievements isn't about feeding our ego, but about honoring the effort and virtues it took to reach that point. Dismissing your success isn't humility. It's an act of undervaluing yourself. When you downplay your achievements, you deny yourself the opportunity to appreciate the growth and learning that came with them. Let's take a deeper look at what happens when we diminish our successes. Each achievement, no matter how small, is a reflection of the virtues we have cultivated. For example, completing a challenging project at work might reflect your discipline and courage in the face of adversity. Setting aside time for a personal goal might demonstrate your wisdom and ability to prioritize. When we minimize these achievements, we are denying the reflection of our virtues. We are saying, in essence, that our efforts don't matter. Here's an important question to consider. Am I afraid that acknowledging my achievements will make me seem arrogant? Stoicism reminds us that arrogance and self-awareness. Here's a practical Stoic exercise. The next time you achieve something, no matter how small, take a moment to reflect on the virtues that helped you succeed. Write down what it took, whether it was courage to step out of your comfort zone, discipline to stay on track, or wisdom to solve a problem. By acknowledging the virtues behind your achievement, you are practicing self-awareness without slipping into arrogance. You are honoring the truth of your efforts, which is a core Stoic principle. Stoicism teaches that the pursuit of excellence is not about seeking praise or validation from others, but about aligning your actions with your virtues. When you achieve something and you minimize it, you are effectively cutting yourself off from the practice of gratitude for the progress you've made. Imagine how different your perspective would be if, instead of dismissing your success, you said, "Yes, this was hard work, and I'm proud of the effort I put in." By recognizing your achievements, you are not only valuing yourself, but also strengthening your commitment to living virtuously. Every success, whether big or small, is an opportunity to reflect on your growth and progress. And the more you acknowledge your achievements, the more you will be able to see your own worth clearly. Let's move on to the next important sign that you might be undervaluing yourself. Fear of pursuing your dreams. 11. Fear of pursuing your dreams. Do you have dreams and goals that you've kept locked away, never daring to pursue them? If so, you may be undervaluing yourself by allowing fear to stand between you and your aspirations. Stoicism, with its deep focus on living according to virtue, teaches us that pursuing our dreams is not only possible, but necessary for living a fulfilled life. Why do we hold ourselves back from chasing our dreams? Is it because we fear failure, rejection, or disappointment? Or is it because we doubt that we are worthy of success? In Stoic philosophy, the pursuit of virtue is seen as a lifelong endeavor, and our dreams are often expressions of that virtue. When we avoid our dreams out of fear, we are not living in alignment with our true potential. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." The Stoic approach to life is one of embracing challenges and pursuing what is meaningful, even if it involves uncertainty. But why do we fear chasing our dreams? Perhaps it's because we've been conditioned to believe that failure is a reflection of our worth. But Stoicism teaches us that failure. Ask yourself, what dream have I been putting off because I'm afraid of failing? Stoicism teaches that the pursuit of excellence is not about the outcome, it's about the process. Whether or not you achieve the dream is less important than whether you act in accordance with your values and give it your best effort. If you approach your dreams with this mindset, the fear of failure loses its power over you. Imagine pursuing your dreams with the Stoic principle of amor fati, the love of fate. This principle teaches us to embrace whatever happens as part of our path, whether success or failure. By practicing amor fati, you learn to see both triumphs and setbacks as opportunities for growth. When you pursue your dreams from this perspective, you are no longer held back by fear. Instead, you are motivated by the understanding that whatever happens, it is part of your journey toward becoming your best self. Have you ever considered that avoiding your dreams is a form of self-neglect? By not pursuing what matters most to you, you are essentially telling yourself that your aspirations aren't important, that you aren't worthy of achieving them. But Stoicism reminds us that each person has a unique role to play in the world, and pursuing your dreams is part of fulfilling that role. Consider this. What would happen if I pursued my dreams without fear of the outcome? Stoicism encourages us to let go of our attachment to results and focus instead on what we can control: our effort, our perseverance, and our attitude. By shifting your focus from the fear of failure to the joy of the process, you free yourself to take action without the weight of expectation. Here's a Stoic exercise. Identify one small step you can take toward your dream and commit to doing it. Don't worry about the outcome. Simply focus on taking action in alignment with your values. Whether you succeed or fail, the act of pursuing your dream is a reflection of your courage and dedication to living a virtuous life. By facing your fear and pursuing your dreams, you honor your potential and show yourself that you are worthy of achieving what you desire. Stoicism teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. The pursuit of your dreams is a courageous act, one that reflects your commitment to living a life aligned with your highest values. Now that we've explored how fear of pursuing your dreams can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move on to the next important sign: failing to set boundaries. 12. Failing to set boundaries. Have you ever felt overwhelmed because you've said yes to too many things, leaving little room for your own well-being? If you often find yourself unable to set boundaries, whether at work, in relationships, or even with yourself, this could be a sign that you're undervaluing yourself. Stoicism, which emphasizes the importance of self-control and living in harmony with nature, teaches us that setting boundaries is not only necessary but virtuous. But why do so many of us struggle with setting boundaries? Is it because we're afraid of disappointing others? Or do we believe that our needs are less important than the needs of those around us? Often we fall into the trap of thinking that by always saying yes, we are being kind and selfless. However, Stoicism teaches us that justice, one of the 4 key virtues, means giving each person, including ourselves, their due. And sometimes, justice means saying no in order to protect our own time, energy, and peace of mind. Stoicism encourages us to focus on what is within our control, and this includes how we manage our time and resources. When you fail to set boundaries, you allow others to dictate your schedule and priorities. This leaves you feeling drained, overextended, and ultimately less capable of fulfilling your true purpose. The Stoic philosopher Seneca reminds us, no one can lead a happy life if they are controlled by their desires. This also applies to the desire to please others at the expense of your own well-being. Ask yourself, am I setting boundaries that reflect my values and needs, or am I allowing others to overstep my limits? When we fail to set boundaries, it's often because we fear how others will react. We worry that we'll be seen as selfish or unhelpful. But Stoicism teaches us that we must prioritize living in alignment with our virtues over seeking the approval of others. When we allow others to infringe on our boundaries, we are not acting in accordance with wisdom or temperance, two virtues central to the Stoic way of life. Consider this. What if Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic leaders, had allowed himself to be overwhelmed by the demands of his empire, never setting boundaries to protect his own well-being and mental clarity? His reign, marked by wisdom and reflection, would have suffered. Like Marcus Aurelius, you too need boundaries to maintain your inner peace and to act in accordance with your values. Have you ever stopped to think that failing to set boundaries is a form of self-neglect? By allowing others to constantly infringe on your time and energy, you are effectively telling yourself that your needs don't matter. But Stoicism reminds us that self-care is a necessary part of living virtuously. Without boundaries, you risk burnout, resentment, and a diminished capacity to show up fully for the things and people that truly matter in your life. So how can we begin setting healthy boundaries in a way that aligns with Stoic principles? First, practice self-awareness, a key Stoic exercise. Reflect on your current commitments and ask yourself if they are truly aligned with your values and priorities. If they're not, it's time to reevaluate and make adjustments. Next, practice courage by having honest conversations with others when they overstep your boundaries. This isn't about confrontation. It's about clear communication and respecting both your needs and theirs. Here's a Stoic exercise to try. The next time someone asks you for something that will overextend you, pause and reflect before answering. Ask yourself, does this align with my values and priorities? Will saying yes serve both me and the other person in the long term? If the answer is no, practice saying no with kindness and firmness. By doing this, you are honoring your own needs and reinforcing the importance of balance in your life. Ultimately, setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, and Stoicism teaches us that respecting ourselves is just as important as respecting others. By protecting your time and energy, you are ensuring that you can show up fully and intentionally for the things that matter most to you. Now that we've explored the importance of setting boundaries, let's move on to another critical sign of undervaluing yourself, comparing yourself to others. 13. Comparing yourself to others. How often do you find yourself looking at others' lives and feeling like you're falling short? In the age of social media and constant exposure to others' highlight reels, it's all too easy to slip into the trap of comparison. If you frequently compare yourself to others and feel diminished by the process, you may be undervaluing yourself. Stoicism teaches us that comparison is a distraction from what truly matters, living in accordance with our own values and virtues. But why do we compare ourselves to others in the first place? Is it because we believe that by measuring our success against someone else's, we can determine our own worth? Or is it because we fear that we aren't enough as we are, and we look to others for validation? Stoicism reminds us that this kind of comparison is not only harmful, but also irrational. As Epictetus wisely put it, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? The Stoic approach to life is one of focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and reactions. When we compare ourselves to others, we are focusing on things that are entirely outside of our control. We have no influence over someone else's journey, talents, or achievements, so why do we allow these external factors to dictate how we feel about ourselves? Ask yourself, am I measuring my worth by the standards of others or by my own values and progress? Stoicism teaches us that we must focus on our own path, not because we are indifferent to others, but because each of us is on a unique journey that cannot be compared to anyone else's. What matters most is whether you are living in alignment with your own virtues, whether you are growing, learning, and improving based on your own internal compass. When you compare yourself to others, you are essentially ignoring your own growth and progress. You are failing to recognize the effort, discipline, and perseverance you have put into your own journey. Stoicism invites us to shift our focus inward, to measure success not by external achievements or how we stack up against others, but by how well we are living in accordance with our values. Imagine living a life free from the burden of comparison. How liberating would it be to pursue your goals and dreams without constantly measuring your progress against someone else's? Stoicism teaches us that true contentment comes from within, from knowing that you are doing your best and living virtuously. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us to focus on the present and on our own actions, rather than being distracted by the success of others. Have you ever paused to reflect on what makes your journey unique? By comparing yourself to others, you are missing the opportunity to appreciate your own path. Stoicism teaches us to practice gratitude, not just for external things, but for our own growth, character, and resilience. When you stop comparing yourself to others and start focusing on your own progress, you begin to see the richness of your own life. Here's a Stoic exercise. The next time you catch yourself comparing your achievements to someone else's, pause and reflect on what you've accomplished. Write down 3 things that you've done recently that reflect your own virtues, whether it's courage, wisdom, or discipline. By letting go of comparison, you free yourself to live authentically and fully. You no longer waste energy on things outside of your control, and you begin to focus on what truly matters, your own growth and alignment with your values. Now that we've addressed how comparing yourself to others can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move on to the next sign: procrastinating on self-investment. 14. Procrastinating on self-investment. How often do you find yourself putting off activities that would help you grow? Whether it's learning a new skill, pursuing a passion, or investing in your personal development. If you constantly procrastinate when it comes to self-investment, this might be a sign that you're undervaluing yourself. Stoicism teaches us that self-improvement is not just a matter of convenience, it's a moral obligation, a way to live in accordance with virtue and fulfill our potential. Why do we delay investing in ourselves? Is it because we believe we're not worthy of the time and effort? Or perhaps we've convinced ourselves that immediate responsibilities and distractions are more important than our long-term growth? Stoicism reminds us that neglecting our own potential is not only a disservice to ourselves, but also to the world around us. By failing to grow, we limit our ability to contribute meaningfully to society and to live in harmony with nature. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the brevity of life and the importance of making the most of the time we have. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This Stoic reminder urges us to stop procrastinating on what truly matters: our growth, our potential, and the pursuit of virtue. Every moment we delay is a moment wasted, an opportunity missed to become better, wiser, and more aligned with our true nature. But why do we hesitate to invest in ourselves? Often, It's because we don't see immediate rewards. We live in a society that prioritizes quick fixes and instant gratification, so when personal growth takes time and effort, it can be easy to put it on the back burner. However, Stoicism teaches us that the path to fulfillment is not through fleeting pleasures, but through discipline and self-mastery. Ask yourself, what have I been putting off that could help me grow? Whether it's reading a book on a subject you're passionate about, enrolling in a course, or simply making time for self-reflection, these investments in yourself are acts of self-respect. Stoicism teaches us that we are all capable of growth, but it requires intentional effort. By procrastinating, you are not only delaying your own progress, but also failing to honor your inherent worth. Imagine what your life could look like if you prioritized self-investment. How much more aligned with your values would you be if you made consistent, small efforts to improve each day? Stoicism encourages us to embrace the idea of progress, not perfection. It's not about overhauling your life overnight. It's about making deliberate, thoughtful choices that lead to long-term growth. Here's a Stoic exercise to help overcome procrastination. Identify one area of your life where you've been putting off self-investment. It could be related to your career, personal health, or emotional well-being. Commit to taking one small action today to move forward in that area. It doesn't need to be a grand gesture. Often, the smallest steps can lead to the greatest progress. By taking action, you are honoring your potential and practicing self-discipline, one of the key virtues of Stoicism. Consider this. What message are you sending to yourself when you procrastinate on self-investment? Are you telling yourself that your growth isn't worth the effort? Stoicism reminds us that every individual has value, and part of living virtuously is recognizing that value in ourselves. When you take the time to invest in your growth, you are not only becoming a better version of yourself, but also contributing to the greater good. By prioritizing self-investment, you are aligning your actions with the Stoic principle of wisdom. You are choosing to live in accordance with nature, recognizing that growth and improvement are essential parts of the human experience. The more you invest in yourself, the more you will be able to live a life of purpose and virtue. Now that we've explored how procrastinating on self-investment can be a sign of undervaluing yourself, let's move on to the final critical sign: tolerating toxic relationships. 15. Tolerating toxic relationships. Do you find yourself remaining in relationships, whether personal, professional, or social, that drain your energy, undermine your confidence, or fail to support your growth? If so, you might be undervaluing yourself by tolerating toxic relationships. Stoicism teaches us the importance of choosing our associations wisely, as the people we surround ourselves with can have a significant impact on our ability to live a life of virtue. But why do we stay in relationships that no longer serve us? Is it because we believe that we don't deserve better, or because we fear the discomfort of walking away? Many of us fall into the trap of tolerating toxic behavior because we've convinced ourselves that this is the best we can hope for. However, Stoicism reminds us that we have the power to choose our associations, and it is our responsibility to cultivate relationships that reflect our values and virtues. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that our environment, including the people we surround ourselves with, can influence our thoughts and actions. He advises, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." When we tolerate toxic relationships, we are placing more value on the opinions and actions of others than on our own well-being. This imbalance is not only harmful, but also contrary to the Stoic principle of self-respect. Ask yourself, am I surrounding myself with people who support my growth and align with my values, or am I tolerating relationships that diminish my sense of self-worth? Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the behavior of others, we can control our response to that behavior. If someone's presence in your life consistently undermines your peace of mind or prevents you from living virtuously, it may be time to reassess that relationship. Why do we fear letting go of toxic relationships? Often, it's because we worry about the consequences. Will we be alone? Will others judge us? Stoicism teaches us to let go of these fears and to focus on what is within our control, our own actions and decisions. By tolerating toxic behavior, we are not living in accordance with wisdom, justice, or courage. It takes courage to set boundaries and to distance ourselves from people who do not support our well-being, but it is an essential part of living a life of virtue. Imagine the freedom that comes from surrounding yourself with relationships that uplift you, that reflect your values, and that support your growth. Stoicism encourages us to seek out relationships that nurture our potential and challenge us to be the best versions of ourselves. Toxic relationships, on the other hand, keep us trapped in negativity and prevent us from fully embracing our virtues. Consider this. What would happen if you stopped tolerating toxic behavior and instead focused on cultivating relationships that align with your values? By setting boundaries and prioritizing your well-being, you are practicing self-respect and honoring your inherent worth. Stoicism teaches us that we deserve to be in relationships that support our growth, not ones that hinder it. Here's a Stoic exercise. Reflect on the relationships in your life and ask yourself which ones are contributing to your growth and which ones are holding you back. Identify one toxic relationship and take a step towards setting a boundary, whether it's through honest communication or distancing yourself from that person. By doing so, you are practicing courage and reinforcing your commitment to living in accordance with your values. Ultimately, Stoicism teaches us that we are responsible for the company we keep. By tolerating toxic relationships, we are allowing others to have more control over our well-being than we should. But by choosing our associations wisely, we can create an environment that fosters growth, virtue, and inner peace. As we've explored throughout this video, there are many subtle ways we might be undervaluing ourselves, whether it's struggling to accept compliments, settling for less, neglecting self-care, or tolerating toxic relationships. However, by applying Stoic principles, we can break free from these habits and start living in alignment with our true worth. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, to live according to our values, and to recognize our inherent potential for growth and virtue. By reflecting on these 15 signs and taking action, you can begin to transform your life and develop a deeper sense of self-respect and fulfillment. If you've resonated with any of the signs discussed today, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on how you can start valuing yourself more fully. What small steps can you take today to live in alignment with your virtues? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey might inspire others who are on a similar path. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more Stoic insights and wisdom. Your support helps spread the teachings of Stoicism to more people who can benefit from its profound guidance. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May you live bravely, love deeply, and continue to seek the wisdom that leads to a life of virtue and fulfillment. Until next time, remember, your worth is inherent and you are capable of great things.